Holy moly, one of the worst bond auctions we have seen in the stock market since, well, the bond market, since 2011, leading the stock market to sell off. We'll tell you about that. We'll also talk about banks shifting their risky, crappy debt to other risky, crappy places. And that's always worked out great in the past when we, what do we call it, collateralize things? Anyway, we'll talk about that. We also have this potential fear that a war contagion might end up spreading to Serbia. Okay, so we got to talk Serbia and Kosovo. Do we not have enough freaking conflicts already? You've got Ukraine and Russia. Then you've got now this Kosovo discussion. You've got Taiwan, China. You've got Israel, Palestine. You've got Iran pissing everyone off. You've got Taliban running Afghanistan. You've got the Houthis from Yemen shooting down our freaking drones. MQ-9 Predator drone got shot down. Those things are expensive, man. You know, J-Pow's going to have to turn the printer on again just to fund that drone that got shut down.
Ray Dalio called it.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly that. It's the Ray Dalio hot waters. But anyway, so we'll talk about this, a lot of things, Elon Musk, Tesla, a lot of things to talk about. But first, let's talk about this terrible, literally, it's not even my word. It's straight from Bloomberg Intel here. A terrible 30-year bond auction sent ripples through the U.S. bond market on Thursday. The bonds tailed, pricing at a yield of more than 5 bips above when issued yield. Okay, that's like really fancy wording. Basically, let's just put it this way. The spread was so big because nobody was there to buy the frickin' 30-year bond. We haven't seen that bad of a bond auction since 2011, when we had the default crisis or the S&P downgrade crisis in the United States. That is the worst bond auction we have had in 12 years. That led to a further bear steepening. Yields on the 10-year went up like 13 basis points today. Stocks plummeted, especially the yield-sensitive stocks. This is a painful time. We're sitting back at 4.64 on the 10-year Treasury. Oil's still dropping, though. Still at $80 now for Brent. WTI 75. Trending down as people believe we're going into a recession almost with certainty. Atlanta Fed now, real GDP. Last week we were talking about it having dropped below 2%. They just revised it yesterday to above 2%, so now it's 2.1%. It's been a little volatile around there. Way down, obviously, from the annualized Q3 of 4.9%, which is crazy. But that bond auction came on top of the fact that we also had a cybersecurity attack, well, cybersecurity breach, so a cyber attack. Do you know about this one? Mike, you know a little bit more about cybersecurity than I do.
Yeah, I know very little about this attack. I know the news came in earlier today, and apparently they were rerouting trades or something like that. And this was ICBC, which is the largest bank in China.
So, yeah, apparently they were also involved in the treasuries market. You couldn't get trades settled. There was a one-day delay in treasuries getting settled from yesterday. Today, the repo market had settlement issues, all from the cyber attack. I mean, this is crazy what's going on in the economy. And I think a lot of people are just pissed because globally, we're being told we're not in a recession, but everything feels crappy. And so everybody's pissed. And not only is everybody economically pissed, but now people are pissed because there's war everywhere. It's a crazy time. But what else is crazy, and I didn't think I'd see this, you know, because this is such a throwback to 2008 here. What is this debt risk now that everybody's talking about? Because it just, as soon as I start hearing synthetic and collateralizations, I start wanting to shut down. Like this doesn't look good.
Oh, yeah, U.S. banks are clever, man. They have found a new way to unload risks onto others. J.P. Morgan Chase, U.S. Bank, Morgan Stanley, all these guys, they're basically selling these complex debt instruments to fund managers. And so they're doing this in an attempt to reduce regulatory charges on their capital. So they're called synthetic risk transfers. They're expensive for banks, but they're less expensive than the alternative, which is taking on the risk and then also not letting your money go to work. Because in their case, they have to have this collateral on the side. They have a capital that they need to hold in order to, like against their loan portfolios. And so that's money that's not being put to work.
So in other words, shut the frickin' front door or whatever. Shut the door.
But why are they buying these synthetic loans?
So here's how it works. Think about it this way. Let's say you have $100 of loans. I lent you $100, let's just say. And let's say there's a risk that you're not going to pay it back. And J-Pow's like, Kevin, you're the bank. you need to keep of that money you lent to McKay. I need you to keep $20 on account all the time. It's not that high, but it's just an example. And I'm like, I don't want to keep this $20 here. Well, they're like, but McKay might not pay his loan back. So what's my choice? Well, I could sell that asset. So what's happening is the banks are like, well, let me take all these risky loans, bundle them together. God, this sounds so 2008.
Yep.
This is scary. Let's take all this trash lending product. Let's stamp it with a AAA
Basically,
rating.
yeah, this is risk
Right?
free.
Yeah. Then chop it up and we'll call it a collateralized obligation, or in this case, a synthetic risk transfer. We'll slice it up to hedge funds who are starving for yield, because if you could get 5% in the treasury market, why would you give a hedge fund your money? You know, you could buy real estate maybe, but which you know is more stable than a hedge fund. But if you're going to give it to a hedge fund, you're going to need a higher yield. So what are the hedge funds doing? They're like, we'll take your trash debt, your personal loans, your SoFi loans, your Affirm loans, your whatever. We'll take your crap debt that you have to have too much reserve on book for, and we'll take it at a discount to where they're yielding like 15% on this
Or
stuff.
more
These hedge funds.
sometimes,
It's
yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Like, it's good until it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
this is, it's no surprise that you've got somebody like Warren Buffett that's like, I'm in cash, baby.
Yeah, I was just going to ask
know?
you, what were your thoughts on Warren Buffett's cash pile right now?
Well, you know, Warren Buffett is amazing. I love the guy. I absolutely respect him. Warren Buffett is he's a deal maker. He doesn't just buy stocks. He does deals. That's how Warren Buffett is different. He's it's like doing wedge deals, but on businesses. You know, he just doesn't buy new construction. He buys wedge deals, which is what we do at HouseHack. But when it comes to the stock market, the way you have to think about it is he doesn't go on Robinhood and buy a stock. He sits there with the cash pile knowing that when poopy doopy hits the fan, he gets the phone call. And they're like, hey man, I really need cash in 5 days. Will you buy us for 50 cents on the dollar? And he's like, how about 10 cents on the dollar? And they're like, okay. That's how he makes money, because he's got the reputation that he is the true lender of last resort. He's like the guy people go to when everything's, absolute disaster. That doesn't mean there will be disaster. So theoretically, just like Goldilocks scenario here, theoretically, let's say inflation comes in low next month, jobs for the next 2-3 months start coming in soft, below trend, and markets start pricing in rate cuts for next year, and markets slowly start recovering after tax loss harvesting season. And you know what? We avoid any kind of blow up. Let's just say Goldilocks, that happens. Is Warren Buffett going to be pissed? No. He's just going to be sitting there going, all right, well, call me when you need me. He's so patient. He's so damn patient. He does not need a crash today. He's not like the bear on Twitter that's like, come on, baby, crash so I can go buy something now. He don't give he's just sitting there going, call me when you need me. And that's what's so amazing about Buffett is he's like, he has nothing to prove to anyone. So he just sits.
Is he ever going to, are we going to see a large sum of that cash ever deployed? Do you think he's waiting for something?
Yes. Yeah. The next big oopsie doopsie. And then he'll go buy, it'll be, just to give you an example, Tesla goes to $10 a share, and Elon gets kicked out as CEO, and the company's facing bankruptcy. Buffett buys the whole damn thing. Because think about it, $10 a share, it's a $60 billion company. So it's 1/3 of Buffett's cash pile. Buffett now owns all of Tesla. That's when Buffett comes in. I don't think Tesla's going to go that low.
What would it take him to buy Bitcoin?
He would never buy Bitcoin. Never in a million years would he buy Bitcoin. He wouldn't even touch the ETFs. It's all speculation to him. He's a cash flow guy. He looks at it and goes, I want to see operating cash flow. I don't care about your growth projections. I want to know worst case scenario, margin of safety. If your growth goes to nothing or it falls, are you still making money? And for most companies, actually, I would say basically all companies right now, the answer to that is no. So what does he do? Nothing. He just waits. He waits until that answer is true.
So in the case of Tesla, I just think it's an interesting example. He actually passed on investing, according to Elon, he had passed on investing into Tesla when it was worth $200 million.
Yeah, and that's fine.
In 2008.
Of course, because the way you have to look at it is you're going to an 80-year-old person going, hey man, I'm going to do electric cars. I'm going to start by taking a Lotus Elise and throwing a battery in it. Fund me, bitch. $200 million. Warren Buffett's just going to laugh at you because the odds of Tesla having made it this far are like zero. So, I mean, obviously it's a non-zero number because here we are and Tesla's great. But look, I mean, am I really concerned about Tesla going to $10 and Warren Buffett buying it? No, but that's when Buffett deploys cash. So until then, he sits. As far as Tesla, you probably do have short-term pain because of tax loss harvesting. All the fund managers, they call their clients. By the way, if you want to get financial advice from us, stackhack.com. We do licensed financial advice at stackhack.com. Courses and perspective on building your wealth at meetkevin.com. And you can shadow us because we're going to be buying a lot of real estate. So as we go buy real estate, you can shadow us. Also go to meetkevin.com. There's a little button for shadowing. And you can come with us as we buy real estate, whether that's locally, or we drive somewhere, or whatever. If we got to go somewhere, you're just coming with us. You're coming for an experience of learning how we buy real estate. So you could do that also at meetkevin.com.
If you want to hear about other people's experiences, go to meetkevin.com and click shadow. There's a bunch of crazy stories that people have had.
It's testimonials and that. Yeah. Pretty cool. So, but what were where was I going with this? With Tesla? Okay. So the tax loss harvesting with Tesla is a real short-term risk factor. I think what you're going to see is a lot of people are going to start paper handing even more towards the end of this year, because I think last year was, okay, tax loss harvest. I think this year you're going to get the true pain, potentially, where people say, you know what, I'm just done with stocks. And this is how you create a generation that never touches stocks again. You literally are going to take, probably not Gen Z, because they don't get, I mean, so much, because they just mostly like talking broadly, painting with a broad brush. A lot of Gen Z is just, I'm just working and then I spend my money. That's a lot of Gen Z right now. Maybe you guys can chime in on this. Well, more maybe McKay. But I think millennials and Gen X is you're going to get stopped out. So millennials and Gen Z, if we have a bad November, December here around the holidays, depressing winter, depressing stocks, and they get hit hard this winter, and the stock market corrects even more this winter, you're going to see an entire generation leave the stock market.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a flash in the pan for like my generation. I'm the COVID people I'm the Robin Hood people. Like I never knew what stocks were before like 2019. Like I had to learn a lot. And you asked about Gen Z. I'm Gen Z, right?
Yep.
And I don't think a single one of my friends are in the stock market. Not a single. When I go back home, not a single one of my friends are in the stock market at all. And crazy enough, an interesting anecdote, I sat down at dinner with my two best friends. Both are getting second jobs.
Oh, wow.
Both of them. Well, one of them had a job but had to stop because he had to go to school full time. But his wife is a full-time nurse, so he has to get another job to like help and just like to even start to want to get ahead.
Jeez.
My other friend is a plumber and is getting a second job to just try to get ahead because they're just making ends meet.
It's so hard right now.
It's so hard.
It's so hard.
And I did nothing but empathy because I was just like this is the economy. Like so many people are going through this.
It's impossible because I mean the way you think about it, it's like, okay, how do you build wealth? Well, start a business is an option. Okay, good luck starting a business in this environment. It is, unless you're walking in with like millions of dollars of funding to start a business. Good luck starting a business in this sort of environment. You're not going to get a loan unless you want to pay 8%, which who's going to pay 8%? You can't even qualify for that anymore. You're not going to buy a house. So there are two massive ways of wealth building gone.
Yeah.
You know, getting into your home or getting into a home and house hacking it compared to renting right now doesn't make any sense. Getting into an investment property. Like we called another agent that on a deal that had offers, and they said, oh, a financed offer is higher. And I'm like, it's a homeowner. And, one of the guys is like, well, I mean, couldn't it be an investor? I go, there's no investor financing rental property right now because the number, you will be so far upside down. I mean, unless you're getting a loan for like 20%, like the opposite. Yeah. Not 20% down, 80% down. Maybe that'll work. But the point is, so there are two ways of Gen Z building wealth right now. Very difficult. Starting a business, very difficult right now. It's the best time to do it if you can do it. If you can build a business now, now's the time to do it because nobody else is. The competition is bad. You'll set your foundations up for a great future. Can't build your wealth with a house. Hard to build your wealth at most jobs because most jobs right now, good luck getting pay bumps at most jobs.
Yeah, and most of my generation is still at the tail end of their college. So now people are starting to take student loans to try just to get through college because life is so expensive outside of tuition that they have to take student loans. And these are people 2 or 3 years ago that swore to me they would never take a student loan. And here they are to try to justify it. Like I see it all around me. Like it's just crazy.
Yeah, that is the J-POW economy. I know people call it the Biden economy, but this is J-POW. I mean, I do think that there is an element of contribution that does come from obviously the White House, how we're interpreting, stimulus for electric vehicles or solar, which a lot of good both of those things are doing for the stocks, and how we provided more stimulus payments at the beginning of the Biden admin. But that's also in part why he was elected. Yeah. Remember, one of the ways they swung that last Senate seat in Georgia and the Biden election was, we're going to get you that $2,000. We're going to get you more stimmy. That's how one of the ways they got in. Of course, other people in the comments would be like, and election fraud. But okay, all right.
Stop the count.
We're not going to debate that right now. But anyway, this all stemmed from this idea that now banks are basically pulling a 2008 here. And now, I've been a defender of these big banks like JP Morgan Chase. Like, hey, I'm not concerned about them. But now I see JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, and US Bank getting into selling these products, which, I mean, I guess good for them. They're offloading the debt, but it just amplifies the risk at hedge funds, which I guarantee you are buying these products on leverage.
Oof.
So you're leveraging to get into a 15% yield. So the hedge funds basically have a base that way. So the hedge funds go in and go, okay, we're going to go 50% leverage on 15% yield. So now that works out to like 22.5% effective yield minus our cost of interest, our cost of debt. Well, their cost of debt's probably, call it, 8%. So take that off. Well, you're basically kind of right where you started in that case. But either way, point is, unless you're getting them on a discount, then maybe your effective yield is higher. All that complicated stuff aside, the point is, I almost bet they are using debt to buy more of these to try to squeeze their yield higher, however they're squeezing it. And all we're doing is moving risk from the banks, which is actually the safe place. The bank is the place that's not, at this point, going to fail with J-POW. We saw what J-POW did. He bailed them out instantly. He'll do it again. He'll do it again and again and again and again. But now you move the risk from the banks to the hedge funds. You're Three Arrows Capital all over again. Remember what that did to crypto. Three Arrows Capital blew up. Terra Luna gone. FTX gone. Voyager gone. Celsius gone. BlockFi gone. Imagine that happens in the hedge fund world.
To your point, it's great until it's not.
Well, because hedge funds are exposed to stocks too.
Yeah.
And bonds. So now if they all have to sell all this stuff, well, now you dump bonds because the hedge funds have to dump bonds. You dump stocks because the hedge funds have to dump the stocks they have. So stock values go down. Bond yields go up as bond prices go down. It's nasty, man. Right now you just have to be praying that inflation and jobs come in bad.
You talked earlier this morning on your live about tax loss harvesting. You mentioned a little bit ago, too. To what degree do you expect it with Tesla? Because the differences between now and this year, obviously, one, there's not the pressure of Elon selling a bunch. But on top of that, the stock has almost doubled year to date. So how much pressure do you think there actually will be for people to sell Tesla?
Well, it depends. I mean, the stock did double year to date. But the issue with that is that assumes that you bought January 1st, right? So the fact that Tesla is basically down over 3 years, and there have been occasional peaks where it's been higher, where, I mean, sure, people buy when the stock goes up. That's generally the psychology you find. People buy on green days all the time. I like to buy on red days. But you find people buy on green days a lot, and so their cost base is probably higher than where we are now. So even though the stock is up, 90% year to date, people's effective return on Tesla right now, vast majority of people, I would say 70 to 80% are probably upside down on Tesla right now.
Ouch.
Yeah. Something kind of funny that I thought about. Would you consider Ron Barron to be the J-POW for Tesla, always bailing them out?
No.
After like a bad report comes in, like today, you had that the bank come in and say that they're downgrading.
Yes.
You have Ron Barron say they're gonna be 4 trillion. He just pumps the stock all day.
But there's no effect anymore. Like Elon Musk saying, no, I mean, maybe.
When Ron Barron posted that 4 trillion
did it
article.
Go up that day?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm like pretty sure it was a 5%er.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because he's going on CNBC tomorrow at 6 a.m. to bail Tesla out again.
I mean, at some point, that only goes so far. I mean, look, Morgan Stanley's like, oh, their FSD stuff is going to be the most valuable thing ever. The stock did go up like 6% that day. And it just goes straight down right afterwards. It just gets sold off. This is a tough time, man. We actually have more Tesla stuff. We want to hit some of the other Tesla stuff, really. But yeah, it's it is a very hard market, and it is very easy to be a bear to some extent right now because you could just poop on everything. There's so much uncertainty that it's almost certainly going to go down. Like that's the one thing of certainty we have in this market is it ain't going down, boys. It sucks.
Yeah, and that's what makes it hard for like my generation is because they ask me like, hey, do we need to get into stocks and stuff? And it's just like I tell them what I do, and then they just like, well, how are stocks doing? I'm like,
it's all red, baby. It's all red.
Don't look.
Which is the best time to get in, but nobody does because it's painful. So you go work a job and you got $5,000 or whatever, and then okay, I'm gonna put this in. Like you go do all the fundamental research you want in the world. It'll be great over 5 to 10 years, your fundamental analysis, but in the short term, that's what's gonna happen to your stock.
So the things I have for Tesla today, one is the HSBC downgrade.
Yes.
That was brutal.
That $146. Yeah, that's 30% to the downside. They gave us 6 of that today, so we're 1/5 of the way there.
Do you want to go over that a little bit? Do you want to tell us anything about that? I know you covered it again today. This morning.
These none of this crap, in my opinion, matters. It's all short-term noise. It's I don't know. It's nonsense. But please give me your intel.
Okay, well, what I want to talk about is the Swedish Union and updates on that.
With Tesla?
Tesla.
With how they're smuggling the cars in by car?
Because IF Metall or whatever they're called, they were trying to push the strike on a Tesla. Nobody striked. At this point, there are some Tesla employees striking. There's 6 in the entire country.
Wait, there's 6 Tesla employees in the entire country?
It's striking.
And what, like 20% of them are striking?
Oh, it's fewer than 20. I know they don't have many Tesla employees, but it's fewer than 20%.
So it's like 1 person.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
So this union is calling for others to strike too, right? They want Tesla to strike. They said no. So they've gotten a bunch of other unions on this too. So dock workers are refusing to unload Teslas on 4 of the docks in Sweden.
Oh, God.
Transport companies in Sweden are refusing to transport Teslas. Like electrical work, electricians, they're refusing to touch Tesla, anything Tesla, no superchargers, no power walls. They're not going to work on any of them. Mail and package services are closed to Tesla. Garbage collection. I mean, there's so many services close to them. And so this is supposed to hit Tesla hard, right? I mean, that's the whole point of it. Here's what I got on my screen. Tesla doesn't care. They're importing them from other countries, just bringing them on docks from other countries and then driving them right in. Like, okay, we don't need to stimulate Swedish business if they don't want our business. We'll just bring the cars anyway.
Don't want to unload the cars? No problem. We'll drive them in.
We'll do it.
European highways are great too. That's very interesting.
Because people move over to the right when they're done passing. I could go on a rant for an hour about that.
Oh, I hate the left.
Here's something
lane.
interesting about Ron Barron, just to finish off. When he published that article with MarketWatch, saying that Tesla will be worth $4 trillion, stock went up 6% between November 1st and 2nd when the article was published on November 1st.
Okay. All right.
Ron Barron. So Tesla to the moon tomorrow? Green hair?
No, I'm not making the bet, but that is cool. That is cool. Yeah. So, okay. All right. Wow. Well, very good. It's just another little 30% down cycle for Tesla. You know, that's all. It's like if you own Tesla at this point, it's like, oh, it's down 30% from where it was a few months ago. Like, that's just like normal at this point. Like 30%. Like call me when it's 60%.
Yeah. When you ride a roller
getting
coaster,
a phone call in a month.
Yeah.
When you ride a roller coaster for long enough, it just stops being scary.
Yeah, I was
Like,
gonna say, it reminded me of
wee.
Max on the roller coaster. The first time he was so scared, and then every time he got less and less scared. Been here, done that. Like, let's do it again, though.
Max's face after that first roller coaster was like somebody who invests in Tesla, and the next day it's down 6%.
Yeah.
Last thing I have on Tesla today, this has to do with the Venetian in Las Vegas. So Formula One's coming to Las Vegas. This is the first time since like the 80s, and it's they're going to be driving down the main strip. Like it's chaos over there. A lot of the locals actually are not a fan, but they're expecting a bunch of traffic. And so the Venetian is trying to incentivize their own employees to come to work over the Formula One weekend. And they're doing that by offering, I have it on my screen here, total of $250,000 that they're giving away. 98 team members will have the opportunity to win up to 10 grand. And their grand prize here is one team member will get a Tesla Model 3 or cash option of 25K. So I'm guessing base model. But I just think it's so like interesting that in the middle of this like car culture event, the way they're incentivizing this is, hey, win a Tesla. Like this is good marketing for Tesla.
Yeah, I mean that is kind of cool because it's interesting they're doing or 25K in cash. So what are you getting, like a used Tesla? Like is this like a 2017 they're giving away?
It says owner of a brand new Tesla.
Oh,
Model
it does
3.
say that. Okay, wow, that's impressive. So that's the Model 3 giveaway, and this is just to try to get people to show up for work.
Just come to work.
Jesus Lord, what
Don't call
country
out.
are we
Yeah.
freaking in? Like, I will say, and I know a lot of people do this, especially I think watchers of the channel. It's like now's the time to grind harder. It's so freaking painful, but it's the time to work harder because the people who lay the foundations now are going to do really well in the next bull cycle. But anybody giving up now, it's like, well, then you're going to miss out on the bull ride, and then you're going to be like, yeah, well, I wish I had started the business in the bear cycle. But so that pessimism does that. But it's so interesting to me that in this time, the businesses have to give away thousands of dollars just to get people just to show up. At the same time, McKay, you're talking about people struggling and trying to get a second job.
Yeah, and
It's
that's
crazy.
just to try to get ahead, just to try.
It's insane.
And like no matter how much they're saving, like full-time nurse, both going to school and like, yeah, it was humbling to hear.
Yeah, unbelievable. Okay, so what about since we're on Tesla here, Elon had I guess there's some rumor that he's selling Twitter handles for $50,000. Well, I want to know about this. I want the Meet Kevin handle. I ain't gonna spend that money for it, but I've wanted that Meet Kevin handle. Somebody's been squatting that handle since 2014.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've been on Twitter since 2009, but I was not Meet Kevin in 2009.
Yeah, so this has been rumored to be in the works for about a year now. Early on, Elon had said that they're going to close down a bunch of bot accounts and they're going to start like selling these handles. So supposedly this has been in the works for like a year, but according to Forbes, like it's actually a thing now, and some potential buyers, I don't know how Twitter has deemed that these are potential buyers, but they've been getting email solicitations to purchase handles.
I wonder from who?
Yeah, from whom?
From whom, yeah.
Well, you did.
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
I got an email?
You emailed X saying I want to buy this.
Oh, okay. I thought but you said they're sending emails.
They're sending emails.
Oh, they're sending emails. Oh.
Yeah, and they're, I guess in some cases, asking for up to $50,000 for single handles.
That's wild. It's so interesting because you're right, McKay. I did email them many times.
I have a screenshot of you actually asking the handle in 2014. Can I buy this from you? You commented on the Meet Kevin.
Yeah.
And the first comment is, "Can I buy this from you?" It was in 2014.
Wow, that's crazy.
I'm trying to send it to Mikey right now.
Yeah,
It's freaking
and
funny.
my comments from 2014.
Uh-huh.
So I've been after
Yep,
that domain
for a
name for almost a
long
decade.
time, yep.
Or not domain, the Twitter handle.
Yeah, just search
nuts.
at Meet Kevin.
That's depressing.
So I was talking
Yeah.
I was talking to one of the interns, Tristan, about this stuff, and he was saying, okay, go ahead and look for it. And he was saying there's absolutely a market for this. Like, in general, there's a market for handles, and I agree with that, too. I mean, I have a website, but you can't log in without a VPN. I guess it's not allowed in the United States. But Instagram handles, Snapchat, usernames for all kinds of stuff, there's a market for them. People really care. Like, it's so much easier to market your product when you have a catchy and easy to remember handle, in the same way that like the stocks that have like the catchy tickers always do a lot better statistically.
Oh, yeah, it is very interesting. Yeah, you're right. You go to fragment.com
I DM'd you.
/filter equals sold. You have to go if you go from a US IP address, it'll say the service is not available in the United States. So you have to pop into a different IP and then what? You could just bid on domain names? That's kind of interesting. Or Twitter handles. Twitter handles. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's crazy.
Pop this puppy up on screen, Christian.
There's the fake Meet Kevin going, who would have though, a dame fruit. Thank you. Okay. And then the real Meet Kevin going, would you consider selling your Meet Kevin Twitter account?
2014.
Wow.
Holy cow.
I should have tagged Elon. Oh. Anyway, okay.
2014, where was Elon? He just came out with the Model S not long before. This was before the X.
Did you have Tesla stock in 2014?
No, the earliest about Tesla stock was 2017.
I actually made a whole video of all of your Tesla purchases that we've never posted.
Oh, we should do that. That's really cool.
Oh, we should.
2017. Me too. Either 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Right when the Model 3 came out, I was like, I'm dumping my life savings into this
Oh,
thing.
wow.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, economic pessimism.
Yeah.
What's this? What is this? This is more Twitter. Oh, I remember this one.
So economic pessimism in general. This is Investors Business Daily. I have this on the screen right here. They were taking reports of Americans' economic optimism. And as you can see, like some notable dates when it went down, obviously 2008, 2009. But right now, it is at the second lowest point in history, basically. And so what this kind of implies is this theory of the Fed being the resident bear here.
Yeah, look at that. That's we were looking at this earlier. The lowest pessimism or lowest optimism read. There we go. We moved out. Yeah, we can zoom out then again a little bit. The lowest optimism read in 12, 13, 14 years, going back to 2009. And so what was the caption on this? That the caption, this was on Twitter, and this was an individual who posted a caption basically here it is. American economic optimism in October, as measured by IBD, collapsed to the second lowest level in history. Inflation kills hope. And I talked about this a little bit this morning, and what I thought was so wild about it was, if you look at the last time it was low, scroll down on that chart just a little bit, it was either going into the Lehman Brothers collapse or into the 10-year bull market. So this chart says we are either right now bottoming or we're going into hell. So stocks are about to go up or stocks are about to go down.
What's crazy is we're only about, give or take, 10% off all-time highs of S&P 500, yet optimism's at its lowest.
Yep, and then inflation adjusted, and you're like 40% off.
I think I don't know, when was this recording? Like, when was the
snapshot of this?
Yeah.
This was 3 days ago.
Was the date pinpointed like current? So I think we're going to see this in earnings. This coming earnings, we're going to start to see, because we saw the bad forecasts.
Yep.
And I bet these companies are like, we're halfway into Q4 and it's not looking good.
Well, that's why you're getting a lot of these forecasts, and you look at them and it's like, these stocks are dropping 20, 30%. That's what happened. We can pull that off screen. That's what happened back in, remember, Feb-ish of 2022, right when this whole tightening cycle was starting. Netflix comes out with those bad earnings. And then every company after that, every report, it was just like, good news, bad news.
That was right as Ukraine invaded.
Russia. All of it. And everything was just plummet. Like after earnings, you're just seeing these companies after hours down 30%, down 20%, down 10%. The same thing's happening again now. Except it's even more painful because it's like things didn't really go all the way back up again. But it's tough, man. So it doesn't surprise me that economic pessimism is so low. I think the way to look at it is just ignore what the stock market is doing for the terms of your portfolio. Do what you can to put one foot in front of the other. Build the businesses. Get ready to invest in real estate and do whatever you can to just keep working harder, because you're gonna be so thankful in a few years once we get back to the good days.
Yeah, something that you say when you go over jobs numbers is like how they do the reporting. It's like, hey, do you have a job? It's like, yeah, but they actually have two jobs, and like sometimes they you.
It's the payrolls versus the household survey. Yep.
And I always like, sure, Kevin, I'm sure that happens. But after talking to my two friends, I'm like, wow,
it's happening here now.
Like,
it's to your friends.
Here.
Yeah.
So that was just crazy. Like, could that impact jobs? Like more people getting second jobs for the holidays? Could that rug the jobs report after Q4? Yeah,
it doesn't, like, economic pain doesn't feel real when you hear about it on the news. Economic pain feels real when you're like, fuck. Like when it's happening to you.
Yeah.
That's when the economy hurts. It's like, you don't care when like somebody on the news loses their job. When you lose your job, it's like, fuck. Like that sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, want to talk some politics?
Yeah.
Your friend Joe Manchin?
No.
He's not running for re-election.
You mean the Republican? Oh.
Yeah, according to Democrats, yeah. But, this is obviously really bad for Democrats because they're narrowly holding on to the Senate, 51-49. And so with him flipping, West Virginia seats wide open. GOP could flip this around.
No, but he won't leave until next year anyway, eh? Because I think his term expires in the 2024 election. He's announcing now that he's not campaigning basically for the next year. I think that if, first of all, let's be very clear. Right now, if the election were held today, we would probably have Donald Trump as president. Let's say, though, that Biden wins next year. I think he gets Republicans on both sides, no matter what, like in the House and the Senate. There's just going to be, you're going to have 4 years of nothing. If Trump wins, you could have a sweep. Full control, full Republican control. Because there's so much bitterness over this economy. The economy sucks ass. I don't blame it. But that doesn't surprise me. And it also doesn't surprise me that Joe Manchin's like, it's time to retire. During down cycles, you get the most retirements.
Mm-hmm. Is that a bad thing?
Not really. No, I mean that's especially with Congress. I mean, there
The
should
only
be
reason I
term
say that is
limits.
like, let's get more people, like get new people.
New
in
people,
there.
of
Yeah.
course, yeah. But like the same is true at corporations. A CEO step down, CFO step down. When things get hard, people
Kirkhorn,
leave.
that's why he stepped down, was just tight economic conditions.
Well, I mean,
just kidding.
it's a contributor, right? It's all of it. It's like, look, you look at Zach Kirkhorn or whatever. He walks away from Tesla with $500 million. Like, does he really want to go through another 30% down cycle or worse, a 60% down cycle? Why? Like, just take your money and go start something else. And that's what people do. They just move on.
He says he's not entirely done with politics. He's going to go around the U.S. and speak and try to mobilize this like
Speaking fee.
speaking fee. Yeah, probably. So I guess
That's
that is
what he
like his
wants.
retirement
That's
tour.
probably exactly
Yeah.
what it is. I mean, think about it. It's
I think
like
Obama has like a 500K speaking fee or something like that.
Oh,
Obama
yeah.
is a
He's
crazy
a good speaker,
one.
though.
he's
He is
great.
a good speaker.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the politicians do. I mean, that's what Hillary Clinton did. That's every Clinton. They all do it, except I think George Bush. And you don't see him speak too much.
Yeah, whatever happened to that?
I think he had a shoe thrown at him.
He did the first pitch a couple of days ago at a baseball
Those
game.
were solid ducks, by the way.
Yeah, the ducks with the shoe, dude.
Yeah,
that was
some
great.
Matrix crap, man.
and he's just looking at him like, which way are you gonna go, bro?
Solid
It's the
reflexes.
best clip. That's in case you're not familiar. Maybe you could pull it up just in case, for people who aren't familiar. George Bush, boy, this would have been back in like 06 or something like that, following Operation Iraqi Freedom or whatever. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull that up.
This
on
was
screen.
in Iraq.
How many minutes is that?
It's a half a minute.
Oh,
There you
yeah,
go.
it's
There's
right there at the
one.
beginning.
Dang.
And then here's your second one. Yeah.
Well, yeah, replay that.
Heck yeah.
Look at his face. He's just like, bring it, bro.
Boom.
And then you got another one. It's
That's
great.
crazy. I've never
Wow.
seen
Did you
that
see?
before.
Did you see over here?
The delayed Secret
Iraq
Service?
coming to United States' aid. Boom. Blocked.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Hey, he's paying me. Stop that.
Fungible or not?
Well, I guess this would be an interesting segue to some Middle East news.
yeah. No kidding. Go for it.
Okay. I'm gonna load up a map here.
Yeah, I tell you, man, this and Elon's thoughts, by the way, while you pull that map up, Elon talking about Hamas's goal to provoke an overreaction from Israel. I think he hit the head.
Very
nail on the
level-headed.
head. Very
Yep.
level-headed. He hit the nail on the head. And as Elon says, they got what they wanted. They got the entire world, like Jews and Muslims around the world are killing each other, fighting, beating on each other, protests. It's terrible right now.
That was like the most concise perspective I've heard.
Thing he's ever said.
Yeah.
Only if he was that level-headed on the earnings call.
Oh,
Sorry,
No,
sorry.
he had from what I've seen of the
Yeah,
Lex
did you get
interview,
any
it's very
further
good.
from your
No,
video?
because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
But I will watch the rest of it tonight and probably make a video on it. But it was very, very good podcast. But I'll probably do a 20-minute summary, my take on it. But yeah, very, very good. I have to say I was really impressed with Elon's performance so far, at least from what I've seen. Totally like it.
Do you know what somebody in the office said as soon as they opened the podcast? Like, damn, he's old.
Elon?
Elon's looking old.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Wow. This is what happens in a bear market. Okay. People start commenting on Elon's age.
People look old and people get green hair.
That's it. Because of you, I'm going to dye my hair Jerome Powell.
Oh boy.
Signature Jerome Powell silver. All right, so on my screen over here, I have the latest, and this is new as of today. Advances on IDF onto northern
Oh,
Gaza.
they pushed that coast.
Yeah, they've been. So this is where the skirmishes are happening right now. As they're pushing really into Gaza City here. Also, the camp that's getting attacked down here. And then the last one is they've started to move up from the south now as well. So they're really going to close off Gaza City.
Yeah. Well, it's encircle and then compress.
Yep.
Oh.
Worth noting too. So obviously, like the world's been asking for a ceasefire here, and Netanyahu is doubling down on no ceasefire, but they have agreed on we'll call it pauses on conflict. Basically, they're doing these daily 4-hour pauses, and they've kind of been doing this the last couple of days anyway. But it has to do with this evacuation corridor down here, where once a day they're opening it up and they're letting people evacuate through there. So this is obviously for humanitarian purposes they're doing this. But Netanyahu reaffirmed today, it's like, this isn't a ceasefire, and we're not doing a ceasefire, but we are allowing for humanitarian aid to go through. And so the White House announced today that, not only are they doing this, they're going to be giving notice up front. Usually it's like minimum of 3 hours before this corridor opens, then 4 hours of not ceasefire but pause,
Right.
and then back to mowing down Gaza City.
You know, it's so interesting because this attack was so brutal on Israel that I think now they are going for the complete extinction of Hamas. And one of the ways they're doing it through this operation that you're showing on the map as well is they are destroying as many tunnels as they possibly can. Tunnels that have been built really since the beginning of I mean, they've been there. There have been tunnels even before Hamas, but substantially expanded under Hamas. They've been around. Hamas has existed for what 31 plus 5, 36 years is how long Hamas has been around. So 36 years of tunnel building, which it takes years and millions of dollars to build one tunnel. There are hundreds of tunnels. Actually, it might even be up to 1,000 tunnels. So far, Israel is suggesting they have destroyed 100 tunnel shafts, so entrances into different tunnels. And I think they're just going to destroy every tunnel that they can get their hands on. That this is actually, it's not even a let's find Hamas. That's almost like the byproduct of their incursion right now. It's let's destroy every tunnel we can. It's not a bad idea if you think about it, because then you bring everyone to the surface. Now you could supervise with satellites. Where are they building now? It was a lot harder to watch in the 90s and early 2000s with satellite data. Oh, let's track everything. Now it's way easier. You could fly drones every single day monitoring where are tunnels being built after you destroy them all. And so you actually get a pretty large intelligence advantage by destroying as many tunnels as you can.
Do you think Israel's past the point of no return? Even if the hostages were freed, do you think Israel will be like, all right, thanks guys, we're out of here? Or do you think they're like it is past the point of no return?
Yeah, it's a little past that. I mean, I do hope all the hostages are released, but I do think Hamas realizes that if they hand over all the hostages, any ounce of remaining leverage they have goes away, which I think they are already convinced they don't have any anyway.
Because I think we've said it here on the podcast. Elon said it. You kill one Hamas soldier, you create two more.
Oh yeah.
Can you ever eradicate a movement?
Probably not. It's sad. Probably not. Yeah. It's sad. It's terrible. But you know what? Honestly, it's I mean, just the blunt way to put it is the United States is incentivized to keep war going everywhere else.
Which is the sick part.
Yep.
But
That's the military-industrial complex. On one hand, the idea is, well, we're spending all this money funding all these foreign wars. Okay, well, if we weren't, would the battles be here? That's the counter argument. Would we rather have a war in San Diego? Could you imagine that? Rockets coming over to San Diego and terrorist cells splintering up over in America. I mean, knock on wood, aside from, the terror of the mass shootings that we see, which come from Americans, which that's obviously a massive problem, mental health issue substantially. But aside from that, I mean, knock on wood, we're not having terror attacks here. They're elsewhere. Terror attacks in France and in Germany and certainly obviously in the Middle East, the hotbed, at least the argument of the U.S. government is that, well, the reason we don't, or the reason we have way less, is because we're fighting elsewhere. That's the thesis.
Counterpoint, though, 2 decades ago, the terrorists were like, we're sick of you guys doing all this over here. We will come over there and we will spread terror, and we have 9/11.
Well, but then I wonder, I mean, how much were we, I mean, the Kuwait War, the original battles with Iraq, Saddam Hussein, I mean, how much were we uninvolved? How much did we pull back before 9/11? So I think that would be a very interesting question to evaluate, is how much did we pull back after the battles in the Gulf War in the 90s to enable 2011? Or is it because of the pain that we caused in the Gulf War that 9/11 happened? I don't know. It's a really good question. We didn't even have TSA back then.
It is interesting that you talk about like the terror attacks, because like I'm looking at a list of all the events that have been categorized as terror attacks, almost entirely U.S. citizens.
You mean the mass shootings?
Attacking. The attackers being U.S. citizens. Not just shootings, but like
on
bombs.
America
Anything,
are from Americans.
Any attacks on America, they can be classified as terrorist attacks without being a foreign person. Most of them are from US
like
citizens.
Boston Marathon bombing and stuff. No, well, and I agree with you, and I think that's like the mental health problem. Like that's a different war.
Yeah.
But like, imagine if we had the mental health war and those sort of like Boston Marathon bombings.
Well, that
imagine
was more terror. That was terror. They were from I watched like a 4-episode documentary on
nice.
Netflix. Yeah, they went back to the Middle East and then they were radicalized.
Really?
And then came back and it was a standoff. They had bombs and they were very prepared.
Wow. I mean, terrible. Well, I mean, I guess that's a counterpoint. So I don't know. That's, again, I don't know that I agree with it, but it's the argument of the U.S. government that, hey, you know what? The more we fight in the Middle East, the less terror we have here. And so that doesn't necessarily mean zero, but the thesis is less.
And the unfortunate truth is Elon said it on the podcast is there always was war. There always will be war. This utopian idea of no war, unfortunately, is just not a reality. There will always be some conflict somewhere. Like nature's not peaceful.
Yeah. That's terrible.
So it's just that was an odd perspective that I hadn't thought about.
The Boston Marathon bomber was of a Chechen descent, but also an American citizen.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. So again, reiterating that this is American attacking American here. But I think the idea is, are we like beyond 9/11? How much are we getting that external extremism within America? And would we have more if we were not in the Middle East or helping in Ukraine or otherwise? That's always the defense of the military-industrial complex. And nobody knows that answer. But what I will say is, do we want to find out? That's the question. You know, the argument of some running for office is, well, let's stop funding wars and just focus on America. Well, does that mean we bring that attention to America? Nobody knows. And I don't know if anybody wants to find out.
You know, as far as I'm aware, the first terrorist attack that ever happened on U.S. soil came from Germans, the German Empire, 1916, Black Tom.
Wow.
That's the oldest one.
Interesting.
Very little known one, but as far as I know, that is the earliest what we consider a terrorist attack on the U.S.
What is it with these Germans? Okay. All right. What else we got?
Okay.
Oh, I want to talk Kosovo. Why don't we hit? Mikey? You know a lot about this because this is what people are just not paying attention to. Is that this hotbed of war is now creating more potential tinder boxes, I like to call them, because I played a lot of RuneScape. I got my level 99 fishing mug right here. And tinder boxes ignite very quickly. And now there's a tinder box apparently in northern Kosovo, southern Serbia. Mikey, tell us about this.
Yeah. It's a really tricky part of the world. So there's tinder boxes happening all over right now too. I mentioned Armenia and Azerbaijan's got stuff going on too. You're probably going to hear a lot about this stuff next year as things kind of bubble up to the surface. But so my background is I'm Bulgarian. So we share a border with Serbia, share a border with Greece, share a border with the Black Sea, with Russia on the other side, Ukraine right there. So I'm really close to a lot of these conflicts. Obviously, I'm probably going to have a bias to some degree, but I'm going to try to cover this as unbiasedly as possible. So basically, it's a new front has opened up between NATO and Russia. And just like in the U.S., how everyone's kind of split between, like, you know, the Republican and Democrats specifically, there's also like the Trump versus the anything but Trump. In Europe, especially in Southern Europe, the really big divide right now is Russia versus NATO. So whose side are you on? Are you on the NATO side or are you on the Russia side? Like, which sphere of influence do you choose? And in the case of Bulgaria, at least, I think we lean more NATO, but not by much.
Interesting. Is there contention in, like, when you go visit Bulgaria, which you were just there not that long ago, how much support do individual, like, real people there, in your opinion, sort of as your anecdote, have for NATO?
I think most of the youth is for NATO. A lot of the pro-communism comes from the older generation.
Interesting.
Which it tends to be true with a lot of places that, like, if you've experienced, you know, starvation and bare minimum and all this stuff, and it's the communists that saved you, it doesn't matter how much time passes, you're always going to look back fondly on the communists.
Wow.
So we have a lot of that too. And we have, capital city, we have statues of Russian heroes. Our history is intertwined with Russia. Russia rescued my specific town from the Ottomans, right? There's a lot of...
The Turks.
Yeah, there's a lot of still, like, favoritism towards the Russians. But times are changing. So for Bulgaria, at least, I would say we've swung, and we're definitely more pro-NATO than not. Bulgaria is a great U.S. ally. It's different than Serbia, where Russian influence is still absolutely supreme there.
Which is interesting because Bulgaria is a member of NATO, Serbia is not, Bosnia is not, but then you have Greece is, Romania is
Pretty much all the rest of former Yugoslavia.
Hungary, Lithuania. I mean, all of these countries around, they're all part of NATO. With the exception of now Serbia and Bulgaria. And so what's going on the southern border of Serbia?
So as of late September, it's reported that Serbia deployed advanced weapons to the border with Kosovo. And this would be the largest military buildup they've had ever since the end of the Kosovo War, which was 99 after basically NATO bombed the shit out of them. And so it's important to understand the context here of Kosovo. Kosovo was a province of Serbia. The tricky thing about it is a majority ethnic Albanian population. So this is majority Muslim population as well. And so because of that, you're going to have the locals that do not wish to be a part of Serbia. They want their independence, and that makes sense. On the other side, though, Kosovo is very culturally significant to Serbia. And this dates back to the 14th century where they had a war with the Ottomans there. And so a lot of like Serbian national identity comes from this war, to the point that like this has achieved like mythic status. There's so many poems and literature and even churches that are influenced and will continue to reference this 1389 is the year, 1389 war that happened in Kosovo, the Battle of Kosovo. So it's very, very symbolic. And it's also symbolic to the degree of like, this is the Christian Europeans defending from the Muslims coming from the Ottoman, coming from the East. So it's symbolic for a lot of reasons. So anyway, you go back to the early 90s, and Yugoslavia basically got split up, and you had all these countries that declared their independence. And one of those countries, well, Serbia did not allow Kosovo to basically claim its independence. It had continued to have military control over Kosovo. And so the Albanian majority that lived there, they faced a lot of discrimination. You can relate it to apartheid if you want. You can relate it to what's happening with Palestine if you want. It's one of those, like, you have a majority taken over. There's a ethnic difference. There's a cultural difference. There's a religious difference. And so there's going to be like a level of discrimination, basically. So this basically led to, and this is going to sound very familiar with Palestine too, this led to the Kosovo Liberation Army. So always there's going to be like
the Palestinian Liberation, PLA.
Yeah.
And now you've got a hotbed over here on the border.
You got a hotbed. They were attacking police and officials and all that. And what happened to Serbia retaliated. I'll speed through the end. That Serbia retaliated really, really hard and cracked down on them, and basically caused a lot of human rights violations, to the point that NATO had to get involved. So eventually NATO ended up bombing the shit out of Serbia, like I said, and it wasn't until 99 that they finally declared basically the end to the war, and it wasn't until 2008 that Kosovo retained their independence. But still to this day, there is a very strong contention there, and Serbia still wants to claim that land. There are stereotypes in Southern Europe that like Serbia claims everything as Serbia. I mean, it's kind of a Southern European thing, right? So anyway, the war was kind of largely overlooked by Western media, which still to this day, I feel like it's not as big of a deal here as it was to a lot of Europe. But Russia has since then continued to arm Serbia. And even after all these sanctions we have on Russia, Russia is still sending oil and gas to Serbia. Serbia still speaks very, very, very fondly of Russia. And from Russia's perspective, they have every reason in the world to try to like stir the pot as much as they can with NATO. And so for that reason, they are very pro-Serbia, and Serbia is very, very pro-Russia. So I see this being like another front of NATO versus Russia. I don't necessarily think it's a proxy war. Like, I wouldn't call it that. Yeah. But it's just Russia has every reason to be trying to fuel this fire. So I think this is going to be a huge deal maybe next year if an invasion actually happens.
Yeah, Foreign Affairs calling essentially or citing the heavy deployment of advanced weapons to Serbia's border with Kosovo. And so if, as you've mentioned here, the Russian military, the Kremlin is essentially backing Serbia, you're really creating this yet another location of how to disrupt NATO. A lot of these Russian actions are driven to disrupt NATO. What can we do to weaken NATO, to punish countries for being involved or supporting NATO, and basically bringing battle to NATO's front? Scary. It's scary time. I mean, it really feels like all the little embers of what it would be a World War III. Scary. It's just so scary. But I don't know. I mean,
wasn't it a Serbian organization that technically started the World War I by killing Franz Ferdinand?
Oh,
the Black
no.
Hand, wasn't that a Serbian group? I feel like it was.
Yeah. What is it with Serbia here? Now all of a sudden we've got yet another, and this is on top of the fear of China-Taiwan. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not as scared of that anymore.
Why?
I learned that the United States has been preparing for that for a long time. Ever since World War II, there are so many bases that the United States has put all around China, Japan, the Philippines. The United States has so many military personnel landlocking China. If China invades Taiwan, it will be the end of China.
Right, but this is like what people said about Russia. Oh, if Russia invades Ukraine, Russia's going to get screwed. They're going to get sanctioned to hell. And so what happens? We cut them off the SWIFT banking system, which is just an interbanking messaging system. We sanction the snot out of them. So what do? They make new friends. What do? They come up with new ways to send money around. What happens? Their currency recovers. They sell oil, no problem. They finance their wars. And now here we are in nearly a 2-year war with Russia and Ukraine. Oh, but the U.S. was going to help end it really fast. It's it all sounds great, but I don't know, man. A prolonged conflict with China be a disaster. You have to remember, they make up a substantial portion of our GDP. They're our largest trading partner. $575 billion of trade last year with China, which it's not just 575 out of our $23 trillion economy. It's the multiplier effect. So you're probably looking at $2, $3, $4 billion, potentially 20% of our economy completely reliant on China. Rubber, copper, lubricants, electronics, machinery. It's not just Barbie dolls. This is a seriously advanced producing and exporting nation that you go to war with them, you've got massive problems.
And I think China knows that too. And I just don't. I think the risk is way greater than the reward of Taiwan. I don't think it's worth it for China.
Everyone definitely loses to a degree. Although, I don't know if you know this, we, the taxpayers, are now officially paying for Taiwan. There was an $80 million grant that got assigned that is part of a $500 million total thing. This is per Bloomberg. It's basically the first time U.S. taxpayers have directly been funding Taiwan. This money is going directly to Taiwan. And I think that might be kind of a 4D chess play here. Like, I don't think that's really enough to deter China from invading Taiwan. But what I think it is us publicly sending the message of like, look, we are backing Taiwan. We are doubling down on this decision to back Taiwan.
To kind of push back a little bit, the United States said they would never defend Ukraine. But the United States has
well, that's not true. I mean, did you hear what Christie said yesterday?
Well,
I mean,
he's not the president.
I didn't understand he's not the president, but he was right.
No, but
but listen to what he said. He said, and he's right. We had a trilateral agreement, and this is easy to study. Just look it up. U.S. trilateral agreement, 1991. Ukraine, if you give your nuclear warheads to Russia, we will defend you if Russia ever invades. Now, the government has changed since then, right? Many times, the Ukrainian government. So it's very interesting. But so what I do think is fascinating, though, is we go to foreign aid for Taiwan to look at what you're saying, Mikey. The foreign aid that we've provided them in 2022 was $362,000. That's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. It's basically zero. And it's most of it Red Cross funding. So basically zero. Now, that's really interesting because what you're saying is, how much did we just offer to send them?
Well, right now it's $80 million up front, but it's part of a larger $500 million deal.
Wow. So, I mean, back in 2007, 8 and 9 during the recession, the Great Recession. I'm looking at foreignassistance.org.gov, by the way. You can see this. You just type in Taiwan, it shows up. $43 million in 2007, $20 million in 2008, $32 million in 2009, tapers off 2010, 22, and then basically goes to nothing. So we've basically, at least directly, been providing them virtually nothing. $300,000 of humanitarian aid. Now you're saying that is going to, in 1 year, probably eclipse everything we gave them in the Great Recession, and it's part of a package that's worth even 4 or 5 times that.
Yeah.
Why? What is it being done under the guise of?
It's just dancing up against China. China actually made a.
It's military grant.
It's military, yeah. And China had a statement against this too. Let me find this.
Yeah. Wow. First installment, $80 million military grant.
That's it.
To arm Taiwan against a possible Chinese invasion. This is remarkable.
And well, to double down a little bit on my point, he specifically said that unlike Ukraine, American men and women would defend Taiwan. President Biden said that in September of 2022. Unlike Ukraine, men and women of America would defend Taiwan.
That is interesting. Who Biden said that?
This is by Reuters. Yeah. So this isn't his.
Biden said American people.
Quote,
Really?
To ask, so this is Reuters quoting the CBS 60-minute interview.
Okay.
Asked to clarify if he meant that, unlike in Ukraine, U.S. forces, America, men and women would defend Taiwan in the recent of Chinese invasion. Biden replied yes.
You know, I have a hard time believing stuff Biden says because did he understand that question fully? Did he actually comprehend what he just committed to? Okay, let me read this. Asked in a 60 minutes interview broadcast on Sunday. Okay, and when was this dated? This was September 18th. Yeah, September 18th, 2022. The article says here, asked Sunday whether U.S. forces would defend the democratically governed island claimed by China. He replied, yes, if in fact there was an unprecedented attack. Well, let's condition.
Okay, no, go to the next. Go to the next.
I see that. Asked to clarify if he meant that, unlike in Ukraine, U.S. forces, American men and women would defend the. So whoever interviewed
did a good job
because they followed up. They're like, wait. Did you just commit America? Let's ask this again. Asked to clarify. He said yes. Wow.
And he clarified, unlike Ukraine. Because I don't know if it was an empty promise or what happened in Ukraine. But for whatever reason, the U.S. has a very vested interest in protecting Taiwan.
Chips, baby. Chips. 90% of our advanced chips under 5 nanometers come from Taiwan.
But this
90%.
is what fascinated me. Before even the technological advancement, right after World War II ended, it was paramount the United States defended Taiwan. Right after World War II, before all the tech went crazy.
That I think was a little bit more. So after World War II, we definitely wanted to, like we have, during World War II, you have Battle of Midway and all these other battles where we kind of claimed the Pacific and everything from LA basically to the Japanese border. And I think that might have been more in an effort to landlock China because of the way international waters work.
Yeah.
Now I think it's a little bit more chips. Although
for sure.
Still the latter two.
The reasons change, but the whole point is how could you pressure your enemy? Because the more you can put pressure around your enemy and sort of constrain your enemy, the stronger you can be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like, if you're playing like Age of Empires, for example. I love that game. You play Age of Empires, it's like if you're constantly sending some troops at your enemy and your enemy's like, okay, I'm going to build walls because this is annoying. And they're turtling, basically. In World of Warcraft, we always call it, they're turtling. It's like, what are they not doing when they're turtling? They're not attacking you. I mean, it's just like basic, like 101 here. It's like cause chaos. But that's what Russia's doing in Europe. And that's how Russia is now stoking fire in Serbia, in southern Serbia, therefore northern Kosovo, to potentially create yet another cluster F. And now, Putin's not bluffing. Putin had all the troops positioned during the Chinese Olympics. And everybody's like, he's bluffing. He's not going to invade. The day the Olympics end.
So are these, because we see them after, like as soon as the Chinese news starts coming on in the morning, every morning, 13 aircraft went over Taiwan. Are these bluffs that we're going to take for granted one day and something's going to happen? Well, at what point does China be like, all right?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't see the advantage for either side.
No. It would be stupid. I mean, China right now, they're exporting deflation to us. So we should be calling them and going, thank you for sending us deflation, because they are facing deflation. Deflation's very bad for China. It's going to lead potentially them to fall into a recession. China's suffering. Like, we think things are bad here. They're really suffering. Their real estate market's a disaster. A substantial portion of individual wealth was based in real estate in China. You have a real disaster in China. And so they're exporting deflation to us. They're not exporting war to us right now, at least at this point. Does buzzing of planes mean anything? No, not really. That's been going on for decades, and that will always go on. What is really interesting is that you probably will at some point have an accident. Where like a plane accidentally crashes into it. That I think will happen. I don't think that will cause any kind of larger escalation into a larger war, but it's the uncertainty is what matters right now. The fear that we could have war, basically World War III. It's Taiwan, it's Kosovo, it's Ukraine, it's Israel. You've got the border crisis with fentanyl. You've got an uncertain election. You've got, is the government going to shut down? This is a cluster F. Is inflation going to go away? What's J. Powell going to do next? Nobody wants to give any certainties. Because nobody has. The more uncertain everything is, the less uncertain everybody is, or the more uncertain everybody else is. My point of that is, it's like, when one person is uncertain, J. Powell becomes uncertain. Well, when he's uncertain, somebody else is uncertain. And then because they're uncertain, somebody else is uncertain. The uncertainty is like this virus that spreads. The more one sector is uncertain, the more everything is uncertain. Now people are talking about rolling recessions through different industries. You know, it's, oh, you're going to have the advertising recession. You're going to have the autos recession. You're going to have the manufacturing recession. It's
Part of me also thinks it's like I'm kind of jaded this way. It's like the news will always look for the next uncertainty. Even if there is nothing, they will make something because they have to get their views, right?
Well, I mean, but at this point, I don't think it's clickbait that there is substantial uncertainty. I think there is real news to cover here. It's scary
there's
times.
always there is real news. I just think that people kind of dig a little deeper sometimes to get news.
Oh, well, don't get me wrong.
Always.
Like that happens on Twitter all day long. I mean, there's
example, Mr.
nonsense.
Beast.
Like, or what's going on with Mr.
Yeah.
Beast? Well, even the chart we saw earlier, which was like basically clickbait. But what's going on with Mr. Beast?
So Mr. Beast in his latest video, he keeps outdoing himself, by the way. Those videos are
awesome.
insane.
Yeah.
But so in this video, he claims that he built 100 wells across Africa and provided drinking water to about 500,000 people. Most of the focus was on Kenya, but he went to Cameroon, Zimbabwe, Somalia, and Uganda. So, okay, cool. He showed up to schools, new computers, furniture, books, gave soccer balls, went over the border. I think Zimbabwe's the next one, provided bicycles for everyone. And he received a lot of criticism.
And this
for
is on his main channel, not his philanthropy channel.
So he's received a lot of criticism. He even said, he's like, I know I'm going to get canceled for this, for uploading a video to help people. But let me be 100% clear. I don't care.
I love that. Good for him.
The reason is this started with a bunch of Kenyan activists who were saying, well, he's just spotlighting the Kenyan, the failures of the Kenyan government.
They got mad that he was showing the failures of their government.
And
Classic.
this is the one that, well, maybe you'll feel an emotional thing from this one. CNN asked the founder and CEO of Face Africa about this, who told CNN, she says, I've been doing this for 15 years, but we've been struggling to continue the work because of funding, awareness, and advocacy all take work. Overnight, this person comes along who happens to be a white male figure with a huge platform, and all of a sudden he gets all the attention. It's kind of frustrating, but it's also understanding the nature of how the world is.
I mean, frankly, you should be thankful because we would not be hearing about Face Africa if it weren't for Mr. Beast. So the controversy is actually a great way to potentially attract more funding for their causes.
Yeah.
You know, like you should be thankful.
They could have struck a deal with Mr. Beast, be like, hey, like we'd love to help provide even more. Like we'd love to figure out another way to work together.
Yep. Absolutely. I think collaboration is always more beneficial than all the hate and drama. But everybody's on edge because, like we said, it's a tough economy. It's uncertain, fearful times. So it makes it hard to try to get up every day in the morning and go, oh yeah, we're gonna work hard and we're gonna do this and this and this. Or it's hard.
When rich people screw the poor, it's shame on them. But when rich people help the poor, it's also still shame on them, I guess. I don't really understand it.
Yeah.
And as far as spotlighting like the issues with the Kenyan government, good. Like,
Yeah.
spotlight the crap out of those
Please.
issues. Like it's corrupt as crap.
What was funny was I think it was $1 billion bet that Elon made with the UN. He's like, hey, if you show me your audited ledger of everything you've done with all the money you've ever been donated, I'll give you $1 billion. Nothing ever happened. They never showed over they never gave up.
Who
the
did
ledger.
this?
Elon with
The UN? Who was it?
Yeah, I think it was the UN. This is also reminiscent of when they had the thing where they were like, "Oh, with $6 billion, like you could eradicate hunger." He's
yeah,
like,
It was the World Hunger. It was the
Yeah.
6 billion. Yeah, it was that one.
So he was like, "No, you can't. Like, show me, give me a detailed
me a
proposal,
plan.
and I'll do
Uh-huh.
it."
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
gave him like a half-page summary of like why that would delay hunger by I don't know how many days or months in what subset of the population. But the point is like. That's not enough. And even still, like we have more than enough food in the world to end world hunger. It's a logistics issue and it's a government corruption issue. So yeah, spotlight the crap out of government corruption that's happening
yeah.
no matter where it's at. And yeah, that's baby steps in the right direction.
Very interesting.
Anyway, we promised the people some cryptocurrency. You wanna
Oh
end
yeah,
with
let's do
that?
it.
Okay, so I got some news on Ethereum and I got some news on Bitcoin. Let's do Ethereum first. So BlackRock, world's largest asset manager, has they've already sought to form a Bitcoin ETF, and now they seem to be doing the same thing with an Ethereum ETF.
Do you think we're gonna get all the alts getting ETFs?
No.
Why?
Just think these two. That's it.
All the
I don't know,
alts?
man.
What do you mean? Like,
well, okay, like top 10, let's say.
Nope.
Because Ethereum's an alt technically, right? So like I don't know what. Let's look at the top 10
Well,
right now.
I think. Let me rephrase that. I think it'll be eventually arbitraged down, and people will find ways to sneak, like, hey, we're going to add Solana into this ETF, or hey,
Sure.
we're going to slowly add these in.
Like XRP, is that just going to be a slap in the face to the SEC?
Dude, I'm a bag holder so hard with this.
Or Solana, Cardano, Doge, Tron, Chainlink, Polygon, Polkadot. Can we get all of these ETFs? I mean, I don't see why not. If they approve one ETF, why would you not?
Are they too manipulative though? Like those altcoins, like they have to have enough
Market makers, yeah,
like,
but it's okay.
It's too easy to manipulate those altcoins.
But if people want to invest in that, then they should be able to invest whatever they
But
want.
then we have to welcome regulation in.
Good.
Yeah.
We should. Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. These spot ETFs are going to be the most regulated ETFs I think that exist. Doesn't mean there's not going to be price volatility. The SEC doesn't care about price volatility; they care about fraud and disclosure. Yeah.
Which the XRP did end up winning the case
Yeah.
with Ripple against the SEC, and that's a step in the right direction.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if we're going to see top 10. I mean, one step at a time.
Doge
If
ETF.
Let's just file
Bitcoin-
for one. Let's just make one. We should just file for it.
Okay.
We just file for. We know how to do it.
Let's do it next week.
If these ETFs get approved, we should just file for the top 10.
We might as well make our own token at that
Meet
point.
Kevin Coin
No.
confirmed. Nobody made
Why
that.
not
Someone's
make
gonna
our-
make it. Okay.
No.
So, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, if this goes well, then maybe we will see more altcoins showing up. But this was filed to NASDAQ with the iShares Ethereum Trust, iShares being BlackRock's cryptocurrency thing. So, Ethereum's up 10% today on this news.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Ethereum now $2,100, 36.6 on BTC. A lot of this buying pressure coming in before the ETFs. I wonder how it'll go after the actual approvals. But hopefully the economy's in a more confident place by then when these approvals come in. Could be any day now though, so we'll see. But probably not tomorrow. So given that it's Veterans Day,
Holiday.
so yeah. All right.
Bitcoin. Bitcoin saw some gains too, not as big, but they saw a little bit of gains today. And I was looking at a couple of different pieces on Bitcoin today. JP Morgan bearish on Bitcoin. They said the cryptocurrency rally is overdone. Mm-hmm. They think the possible launch of Bitcoin spot ETFs unlikely to bring fresh capital.
I agree. I don't think it's gonna be fresh capital. I think you might actually see people like who are tired of custodying essentially their own crypto. Some people, there obviously any hardcore enthusiasts like no, not your keys, not your crypto, right? But some people who have exposure to maybe even like Webull Bitcoin or Robinhood Bitcoin or whatever, and they're like, I want something maybe a little bit more isolated away from these brokerages. Switch to an ETF version of it. It's gonna be a lot. It's probably. I mean, I don't know. Just speculating, but it seems like if you had an ETF, the custodying for that ETF is going to be so rigidly supervised.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I don't think you're wrong.
And do you get SIPC coverage then, SIPC? Because it's an ETF. ETF is a security. Do you now get SIPC insurance having your crypto protected if it's an ETF?
You're right. You should.
Yeah, up to $250,000 for that's for cash. $500K for security.
That's FDIC. Yeah, $500K.
$500K for the security. So you get theoretically, any Bitcoin or crypto ETF should be protected by up to $500,000 of insurance against loss, which is almost better than you custodying it yourself and losing it in a dumpster.
It's almost just like the SEC just insured Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean SIPC and member brokers and that too. Yeah. But yeah, I mean if they approve this, yeah, it now that's how you and then the insurance SIPC, they do everything in their power to make sure that there is no default because they don't want to pay claims.
But that's not a default from the price going
No,
down.
it has nothing to do with price protection.
It's fraud. It's getting stolen, like that.
Lost
kind of thing.
keys kind of thing.
Lost keys, you think?
Yeah, like if somebody loses, like the way you think about it is if Coinbase screws up and they lose, $10, $1 billion, or maybe not $1 billion, just they lose $100 million worth of Bitcoin keys and they're gone. They have no access to them anymore. And Kathy Wood had, all of her crypto custodied by Coinbase, then she puts a claim in with SIPC for all the individual account holders, all the individual people who own a portion of that ETF that is now worth less because that crypto disappeared.
As it is
that
right
would be
now,
very interesting.
As it is right now, they're just like, damn, that sucks, man.
Yeah,
but if
Kathy.
it's an ETF, then yeah, that should be protected.
That's huge. That is huge.
JPM though, again, they're very, very bearish on it. Usually we know the halving or the halvening, either way. Like those are usually very, very bullish moments for Bitcoin, and the next one's coming up 2024 in April. JPM says this is already priced in, so it's not going to make a difference. But Barron's did not seem to agree with that. And so this is interesting. So Barron's cited that Bitcoin continues to vastly outperform Dow Jones, Industrial Average, S&P 500.
Dude, it's outperforming everything right now.
This year, they've had a good year. They've noted the traders are extremely bullish. And as far as looking at the technicals, well, the technicals are actually in support of a rally, saying that should Bitcoin see another breakout, I mean, our next resistance is going to be over $42,000 is the next resistance for Bitcoin, 42,200.
Yep.
Supply of tokens is historically tight because no one's wanting to sell right now because we're approaching those historic highs again, and everyone's basically waiting for it, so no one wants to sell. So Barron's was very bullish on it. And then lastly, I have that the Securities and Futures Commission, so that's Hong Kong, they said they're open to wider access to digital assets, and they might allow for spot crypto ETFs as well.
Yep. That's it's so interesting because China's so anti-crypto, but here's Hong Kong, your semi-autonomous region. That's we'll do it. So fascinating. I mean, you can't poop on the crypto performance right now under the excitement because it's whether it's because of excitement or wider adoption or what it is, crypto is just kicking the absolute butt of the stock market right now. So,
and the SEC is considering 12 different Bitcoin ETFs right now. Bloomberg said, one of their analysts said that we had just entered an 8-day window where we might see all of these getting approved. And they estimated that even if they don't get approved by January of this coming year, there's a 90% chance we're going to see it happen. So I don't know, man. We'll say they threw some crazy figures in there saying the firm estimates over $200 trillion of institutional assets being available but unable to purchase Bitcoin. So if you even take 1% of that, it's $2 trillion in something with a $670 billion market cap. We're multiplying that crap, man. Bitcoin moon.
Bitcoin moon.
I'm done today. I got to drive a sack.
All right. I think that's all I got here, eh? Do we have anything else? I mean, go to meetkevin.com to check out those courses on building your wealth. We got the Noob vs. Pro crash courses going up in value tomorrow evening, so make sure you get in those. McKay, you've been responding to a lot of people wanting to bundle all of them together, get into the profit portal.
Yep.
You can do that. Email us at staff@meetkevin.com.
Happy Veterans Day tomorrow to all the veterans that watch.
Ooh, yep. Observe tomorrow.
Observe. Yes.
Celebrate tomorrow, but enjoy your Veterans Day Saturday. And of course, if you want to shadow us as we go buy real estate, go to meetkevin.com as well. Financial advice at stackhack.com. And here's the disclaimer. Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, licensed real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is neither personalized financial nor real estate advice for you. It's not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. The video is purposefully just generalized perspective information and commentary. Third-party content shall not be deemed endorsed by us, and it is never reasonably sufficient information for the purpose of evaluating a security or investment of any kind. I also personally operate and actively manage ETF and hold long positions in various different securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuers other than HouseHack, nor am I presently acting as a market maker.